Hi, I'm here on the ground because I'm going to revisit something I showed, I don't know, could have been a year ago on Instagram when there was a Getting Up from the Ground challenge, because there have been a lot of promotions about the fact that it's almost a real age determiner. So there are all kinds of points and scores, and I can always link that age test, your real age test, in the comments. But what I want to show you is that this age test is very much linked to, one, your balance, and two, your squat ability. And we can work on both. So I'm just going to show you that the idea is you're sitting here with your legs crossed. Best idea is to put your hands forward and reach and push up. And you can see I stumbled a little bit, but I came up without my hands. So I could go back down and keep trying and probably get one that works really well. But that's really not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is squatting. And it really helps with other longevity tests, because as you become a senior, many doctors will ask you to do a sit-to-stand test. So let's imagine that there is a chair right here, and they'll ask you to take a seat in the chair, and then they'll ask you to show them getting up. And you may put your hands on the chair and push your way up. There are a lot of other complicated variations to that, but what they want to see and they'll ask you to try is sticking your hands out front, a little bit of a hinge, get up, and then they actually ask you to walk, turn around, and walk back. So the squat, my long way of saying the squat, is a wonderful anti-aging mechanism, because it really does represent, in the research, it represents your ability to do so many functional things around the home. And if you can do those things, you're less likely to fall. So that's the whole rigmarole around, why do I want to learn how to squat? Or why do I want to explore my squat? So I'm going to come down to the ground. I'm going to move that a teeny bit for right now. And I can use this as a little headrest. This is going to become a multi-purpose little roll. And you can put anything. You could put a pillow here. But it'd have to be a pretty firm pillow, because we're going to use it later on with our feet. So I'm going to come down to the ground and position myself on the back. And the very first thing I'm going to do is just sort out where I feel like my leg is in the best position to mimic a squat without tucking my tail. So that's tucking my tail, moving my pelvis. So I'm going to keep my pelvis steady and just see where my best place for a squat is. So when my legs are wide, and I can do one leg at a time, I have more ability than when my legs, oops, there goes my pelvis and my ribs. So I can come to here, but up over here, I can come to here. And that's very typical for women. So if I bring both legs up, rotate them both out a little bit, I can make a nice little squat. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to come back into that position, and I'm going to give myself a lot of muscular contraction in this 90-degree angle and that. So at the knee and at the ankle, it's a 90-degree angle and it's at my ankle. And I'm going to create a bunch of muscular contraction there. So I'm going to inhale, and on my exhale, I'm just isometrically contracting everything, just squeezing all the muscles to the bone. And then I let it go. And then I'm going to do it over here. And I squeeze everything onto the bone. And I let that go. And then I'll try it with two legs. All right. So my next job is going to be to do all of that and see if I can get that into my best squat position. So we all know that mine is a little bit wide, but now I'm going to do it with a little bit less of a turnout. So I'm going to find, that's my most preferred. I'm going to give myself just a little bit more standing regularity. And I'm going to see how far in on my own can I bring my knees without my tail tucking. And then I'm going to really activate all of my muscles. So I'm being super careful not to tuck my tail. There's still a space under my low back. And then I can let that go. I can wiggle my legs, and I'm going to do it again. So sometimes it's best to bring one leg up at a time. Notice that it's through my exhale, it's about halfway through my exhale that I start trying to really pull everything in. First I activate, and then I grab and pull in. So we're going to try it again. Notice I exhale there to allow my tummy to control itself and not poof out. Then I start to squeeze everything together as I am exhaling. My talking is an exhale for me. And then I'm going to take another exhale. So just, again, playing with how far in can I go. So I'm going to come into that one more time so you can see this is going to be my current squat capability on my own without gravity. So imagine that my feet are on the floor now. So that's where I can get my knees relative to my hips. And I need to remember that because that's going to be it. So if you are here and then right here your pelvis needs to tuck, then this is going to be your situation. And you're going to know your hips really can't go below your knees. You'll end up tucking your tail, and that we do not want. Okay, so that was a good exercise. I'm going to come up, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try this out one leg at a time, standing, because with my gravity situation, it may not stay exactly the same. So remembering that I was a little bit turned out, I'm going to have my hand on my pelvis, and I'm going to see how high up, without my rib cage or my pelvis changing, can I use my muscles to get myself into this position. It's looking fairly consistent. Notice that I'm using the wall to stabilize my balance, because right now I don't want this to be a balance activity. Exhaling. And letting that go. And you can play with that and do that more than one time to see where is your place. So now, before we try to do it with a squat, what we're going to do is take our little rolled up mat and we're going to calf our stretch. We're going to stretch our calves. So just using the calf stretch, I frequently do it on a half dome foam roller, but this is handy to just use one prop for everything. Remembering it's the back leg that I want the hip over the heel. If you have to lean forward a little bit, that's okay. Not flexing your spine, but if you need to hinge over a little bit, that's okay. And I'm going to turn the other direction. And you'll notice that I'm not the same on each side. So I've been working on this for years, and I'm still not the same on each side. It's just the way it goes. All right, so now I'm going to back this up because we are going to start out giving us a little bit of an advantage against the tight calves with gravity pushing down on it. Many of us have tight calves, so the way we take advantage of elements available to us is we just prop up our heels a little bit. It really makes a huge difference. So when I do this, this is why I'm not using the half dome. It's a little tall for my foot and it'll slide and it's a little hard. So something soft like this is just enough room. Now remember that I had sorted out that I was doing a slightly wider squat with my legs turned out a little bit. First, remember that your feet turning out is not the same thing as your leg turning out. And what we discovered, it was my leg in the hip socket that did better a little bit turned out. So having your leg straight and turning your foot, not a good idea. So my femur is turned out, my feet follow. And I'm going to put my hands out in front of me. That'll be a nice counterbalance for the weight of my bum going behind me. So I'm going to ask myself, how far can I go? Remembering it's okay if your knees go forward a little bit, but the sit to squat or sit to stand and getting up from the ground really require your glute muscles. So let's do our squat as a glute builder. When we go this way, we avoid the glutes. I'm sure you can see that it's all, the weight is all in my knees. That's not going to help my bum develop strength to get me out of a low chair. So hands out in front, sending my bum back as I hip hinge, and then I start coming into the squat. And for everybody, there's a different place that works for you. Remembering we do not want to tuck the tail. Sure, there are plenty of people who do, we don't. This is not our thing. We are going to keep our spine as neutral as possible. And my hips are higher than my knees, which is not exactly what I found out in lying on my back. So you can see that you may not get in this vertical space to the same place that you did horizontally. Totally okay. So let's try it again. I'm going to inhale, exhale, drawing a marble up from my pubic bone up and behind my belly button, and just seeing where I can go and coming back up. Now you'll notice I made one little mistake, and that was I was looking straight in front of me, which eventually as I got lower turned into lifting my chin. So let's redo, keep my neck neutral, reset my feet, and exhale, making sure my knees don't collapse, making sure they stay in the same rotation they were, and now getting my head back in neutral. I'm looking now down at my mat. Much more comfortable and much better for my spine. And then pushing on up. So notice when you push up that you're squeezing your glutes. You're going from your heels and powering up through your glutes. One more time. Inhaling. Now, if there was a tiny tuck in my tail, it's probably okay. But if I over and over and over again do it with a major tuck in my tail, then I'm reinforcing a situation that's not great for the little vertebra when we have low bone density. So much better to try to stay untucked and just go as far as you can and use a little prop. It's wonderful. So that's the beginning of your journey to go from the ground to standing, and we'll address more of that in another movement moment.